All right. Hi, folks. I am super excited to be here today talking about what new farmers market vendors need to survive and thrive. Basically, what we all need to be successful in a market space. Um, so my name is Laura Bennett. I have been farming and managing sales and markets and doing food education for the past 10 years. A bulk of that time has been with an established farm that is vending at 8+ farmers markets. And then recently I've been working with a farm that is just working on developing their own identity within a market space. So we're going to just dive right in. In general, we're going to talk about four basic topics today, and displays is really the big one. For any of you that know me, y'all know that I love produce displays. That is definitely my artistic outlet. So my work in this world is figuring out how to make things as beautiful and functional as possible. Um, and then we're going to talk a little bit about sales and pricing, although there will be a full other video on that topic entirely and just how to make the most of your time at that market space beyond your retail experience. Um, and then we're going to go into the customer experience beyond the transaction and how to help your customers feel connected with your farm or your production kitchen. So displays, my absolute favorite. And this is definitely, a lot of these pointers are applicable for added value vendors or other vendors who are not just selling produce, but the bulk of my experience is with produce, and that is definitely what this presentation is slanted toward. But we're going to talk about developing your brand and your aesthetic. How do people know that your booth is yours and feel that kind of comfort of coming back to you every week? Visual tricks and techniques. They say that you have 3 seconds to capture someone's eye as they walk past your booth, which sounds very intimidating. But there are quite a few little tricks that you can implement to really stop people in their tracks, and get them to pause for a moment. And then we're going to talk about your booth hotspots and where things tend to sell out more and how to put the right items in those places. Some basic versatile equipment that you can use and signage and some of those more logistics on the back end for the market experience. So a lot of the photos that we're going to draw from today are from the example at Eloisa Organic Farm. I've been with Eloisa for the last 4 years, and this is certainly a unique farming situation where farmers Virginia and Sinon here were working at Spring Hill Organic Farm for over 20 years when the owner retired and allowed them to have the opportunity to take over half of the farm and start Eloisa in 2019. So it was incredible that they were able to inherit as much market equipment as they did. But our work over the past few years has largely been developing their own branding and their own aesthetic to make their booth stand out in our farmers market spaces. So one way that she's done a great job of that, one of the first decisions she made was to go with this purple cloth at our booth. And that purple is present in other branding that we have, in our logo, our t-shirts are all that kind of deep purple color. But one great purpose for that color is that it contrasts against our product. The majority of vegetables that we sell are green. And so having a cloth that is contrasts so well with that green color really helps our product to stand out. And then it also just helps make a cohesive branding. And then beyond that basic purple cloth that we have throughout the booth, we also have this gorgeous accent cloth that Virginia brought back from Mexico in the last couple of years. I was worried that I was going to destroy it, and it's so beautiful, but it really is. You know, a lot of these pieces are handmade, and they make it known without a doubt who these farmers are, and what makes these products special. So that has been a really big help in developing our aesthetic at our booth. And definitely when you hit a farmer's market, you know that you're at Eloisa. So in general, beyond the cloth and the coloring and the branding that you choose, what are those other visual tricks and techniques that you can utilize to really stop people in their tracks, get them to pause at your booth and at least just take a picture or smell an herb or, you know, pick up a pepper and look at it, feel it. And then they get to the point where they're like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna buy something here today. Um, so symmetry is a huge one. It is such a simple way to get a human to just stop and look at something, especially if you just create a center focal point. Here in this photo, we've got eggplant on top and poblanos on the bottom, but there is a clear center to this image, a clear place where the eye is drawn. And that doesn't mean that there needs to be perfect symmetry on either side, but again, we've done enough to create a focal point for someone to look at, and that catches someone's eye. The way that we utilize color is also really important in displays. Similarly to the conversation around the tablecloth, you want to make sure that your products are not blending in with each other. You want each one to stand out individually on its own. So I'm not going to put a huge block of lettuce down with 10 different varieties all next to each other. I'm going to have a little ravine of radishes going through and then a block of scallions going through the next set of varieties. So you really want to just break those colors up so that everything stands a chance to be noticed. Um, and then we're going to go over a couple examples of just using repetition in the way that you stack something to, again, make a more eye-catching, beautiful display. How to capture abundance in a way that helps people really want to buy more. If you've been vending for any quantity of time at market spaces, you know that stack it high, watch it fly is a science that works. And I think if there are ever moments where your harvest is lower than you wanted and you're feeling a little down on yourself about that, do a couple little tricks. So in the example of this bowl of poblanos here, if you didn't actually have that many poblanos and you want to make it look more abundant than it is, you can just crunch up a bunch of cloth or shrink wrap or paper bags or whatever you have underneath in that bowl and then cover it with a cloth and have that top layer be full of poblanos, but it still looks overflowing and abundant. So there are many ways where you can kind of manipulate the viewer in a way to make abundance be more perceived. And then, of course, you always want to make sure to utilize as much vertical space to get visibility as you can. A lot of, tables are flat. A lot of us are just focusing on those white fold-up tables as our main tool at the market. And so whatever kind of boxes or basic kind of equipment that you can use to stack on top of each other in different ways and get that vertical level. Folks can see your booth from afar. They can see your produce from afar or whatever your products are, always want to increase that vertical element. And then we're going to go into my concept of mountains and rivers, which is just kind of how I've come to explain it to our employees as we're training new folks. That when we're at the grocery store having that shopping experience, it's very much, here is the carrot block and the green pepper block and the cabbage block and the broccoli block. And that is really quick when you're in a rush. That's a quick way to get veg on the table. It's not the worst thing in the world. But I will say, as we're trying to stop people in their tracks and make them just gasp at the beauty of a vegetable, and make them pause long enough to say, I think I'm going to buy something here. This mountains and rivers concept is really helpful. So in the picture on the right, we've got a basket of celeriac, and then we've got baskets of parsnips, and then we have a beautiful little ravine of Treviso flowing through them. That is obviously a really eye-catching image. The colors contrast really well. There's a lot of repetition in how I stacked the parsnips as well. They're little belly buttons up. And I don't always do that. And I'm certainly not going to restock those parsnips that way throughout the day. I'm just going to dump the tub on there while we're selling crazy at market. But I stack them intentionally enough to get that first early morning rush that really comes with a lot of your sales usually, to notice that. And I also grabbed a photo and was able to get it up onto our Instagram. So those kinds of things make a difference. And then over here with the peppers, you can just see that they are overflowing. They are mixing in with each other. They're falling onto the table. They are abundant, and the colors are kind of separate from each other, so you don't have big blocks of green or big blocks of red. Each pepper stands out on its own. And then here is a image of our front display. So our front display is obviously hugely abundant. This is such an abundant looking display. We have a very clear center focal point that folks are looking to. And I'm not going to put things in that focal point that don't need help selling. I'm going to put things in that focal point that need the help selling out. So when we're thinking about what our hot spots are in our booth, those are kind of the impulse item areas, or the area where the eye is drawn to more attention. So I notice in my booth that center spot on the table, that will sell out quicker than anything. So if I just happen to come with a lot of eggplant, or we tend to not sell that much eggplant, that's what I'm going to put in the middle. Likewise, you'll see those two spots on the side. For whatever reason, it's also the side tables that we put on either end that end up being pretty good hotspots for us as well. One is close to the register, so like impulse item, cherry tomatoes, great thing to put there. Um, and then the table on the right is just a round table, and I don't know what it is about round tables, but people like to buy things off of them. Um, and so you just have this understanding within your booth that there are certain spots, as you figure out how to draw more attention to those spots, that do sell better. And then as you sell out of those things in those places, restock the rest of your booth to move the next item that you want to sell into that space and keep moving it all day. Don't just take that side table down just because you're getting toward the end of the day. If that's your hot spot, keep it up and keep moving things to it. And so here's a look at that table. Same structure, but just how it looks like when we're building it from the morning. I've often used just a lot of like random baskets from Goodwill at markets, and those work great too. I've come to really enjoy these little plastic planters that we inherited from Spring Hill because they all match. They come in a lot of different sizes. They're really versatile. They have a little plug in the bottom so that they can hold ice if you have produce that needs to stay cool on a hot day. And they also nest really well and are fairly lightweight, so you can have a lot of them on your truck, and they don't take up a lot of space. So this is just our technique. We put a line of baskets on the back. We put a spine down the middle to create that focal point, and then we put some baskets on either side, and we just fill it in from there. So it's a pretty basic structure that works for us. And I'm sure y'all can figure out what ways kind of work in your system. And then another thing to note here is just that this table is fully on the outside of our booth. It is not within the 10-foot tent that we set up. It's completely on the outside. Not every market gives you the capacity to do that. But I think this is a really important note. Whenever you can, push things out forward as much as you can. Obviously, you can see that we have all of our like hot summer items on that front table. They're not going to wilt if the sun hits them. We do have umbrellas that we move throughout the day anyway, but we do have all of those wiltable items safe in the back in the shade. But what that really does, having that table out front, is it offers passerbys the experience of getting to interact with your produce and your booth without having to enter your space. They're still in the thoroughfare of the market, and maybe they saw something beautiful. They want to take a photo. They want to look at something. They want to touch something. Um, that is a moment that a lot of folks will never even get to if they're forced to enter your booth to have that moment. I think a lot of people just, they know that small businesses are struggling, um, and they don't want to walk into a space and then not support that producer. They don't want to walk away and face the guilt that they feel for walking away empty-handed. So when you give them a way where they can interact with your booth without facing that, am I going to buy something? Am I not going to? That's a really big way to get people to come into your space and make them feel more invited. And a lot of them will just take pictures and maybe they won't walk in, but they still spent time with you and your brand and your booth. Here's a great example of someone who is not a produce vendor. They're at the Montevilla Farmers Market, and They have a beautiful cloth that is unique. They've got these cute little wooden rounds that they're displaying their product on, and they have really great, unique vertical shelving that helps display their product as well. And then they've got that little piece of ashwagandha there to kind of help people understand what that plant is and offer a little bit of, oh, I want to pick that up and look at it and smell it. I didn't know that's what that plant looks like. That offers a little bit more of an experience. All right, signage. Signage is a big conversation. Um, at its most basic, you need clear labels with pricing. This is a really good example. This is a farm down at the Lane County Farmers Market, and chalkboard signs are clean. They're beautiful. They have a great aesthetic. They've got a cute little border here. The font they've gone with is great. The handwriting is great. It's very consistent. This is really, I think, an example of ideal signage. Those chalkboard signs can be rather expensive, and they also tend to smudge a little bit easier, especially if it's raining outside or a little misty out. And so if you're just starting out and you're not looking to invest in something like that, um, creating your own laminated signage just out of normal cardstock paper, and using an expo pen to change the price is really an accessible place to start, and you can achieve a really similar effect, although the chalkboard is really cute. Um, and then beyond those signs that just label your product and let folks know what it costs, this is really an opportunity for us to offer more of an educational experience and give a little bit more description. I think we limit ourselves by not seeing ourselves as marketers in the way that we are, but farmers really need to help people understand why they should be excited about parsnips or celeriac. Um, and some of us are better at that than others, but really it's just this understanding that for folks that did not grow up eating a lot of these local foods, just saying like, oh, celeriac's great, it's on sale today, you should get some, that's a really abstract concept for a lot of people. It's a weird, knobby looking vegetable that nobody knows what to do with, and I'm just not going to buy it unless I feel like I have a reason to buy it. So really think of it as I'm selling a feeling, I'm selling a craving. I'm going to put up a picture of my favorite recipe of celeriac, or I'm going to write a quick sign that says, um, celeriac, is like a savory chicken soup flavored vegetable or potato or whatever it is you want to say. Um, that education really helps someone connect with that product. And it also is another way that we offer an experience beyond the transaction, because someone can pause and interact with an educational sign. They can take a photo of it. Um, and they can do that without actually purchasing anything from your booth. So again, it's an invitation to stop in your space and interact with you and your brand and your products, without feeling forced to purchase something. You're really there just to learn about this thing. And then another thing that educational signage can be helpful with is, a little did you know, like this is what it takes to produce this thing at the farm. Sometimes I get a little passive aggressive in those notes, to be honest. Like I'm like, did you know Brussels sprouts are such a pain to grow? We have to peel every single individual one so they look clean. And so, just saying something obviously in a better worded way than that, kind of helps people understand, wow, I didn't realize that is what it took to bring Brussels sprouts here. And then they might be a little less upset at whatever price they end up seeing at your table and understand you a little bit better. Um, and then we're going to look a little bit at, I have a couple examples here of just the power of a blank 8.5 by 11 laminated sign, that you can write whatever brilliant idea you happen to come up with. You can get silly, just write random things. And honestly, like it's such a low investment way to move your product, and it really, really works. Um, so here's just some more examples of signage that we're going to see. How sassy are you? This is the Creole Me Up sign that's there every week. This is a great way to invite people into the booth. You're not saying, sample this product and buy it. You're saying, how sassy are you? What's the spice level of your pickles that you can handle? Great way to engage with people. And then over here, we've got a meat vendor at the Montevilla market, and meat vendors especially have all their product safe in coolers. You can't see it. But you know, these folks have got a fluffy tablecloth that is certainly memorable, and they have a bunch of pictures of cute little animals, which is definitely a helpful move. And then here's an example of utilizing those blank signs on the spot. This was one area where we really wanted to educate folks about what a chocolate poblano is. A lot of people didn't know. We realized that poblanos do start to ripen toward the fall. They develop this rich chocolate flavor, color, I mean, and a really deep flavor that is like no other time of year. And so this is one way where just with 2 pieces of paper and a pen, again, put out that brilliant idea and people stop in their tracks to go, whoa, what's a chocolate poblano? And they all want to buy some and try some and get that seasonal treat while it's here. And then here's an example of taking that the next step further. Once you have time in the winter and actually I need some educational signage to help us sell these things. And so we realized that folks actually didn't have a concept for our full variety of peppers. In this example, we at Eloisa, we grow a lot of specialty peppers, and we notice that folks think that they're either sweet peppers or they're spicy peppers. And we grow a lot of peppers like Anaheim, Chile de Agua, poblanos that are more of a warm, savory pepper. And so this sign helped us to immediately make someone crave the food in the recipe. It's a recipe that's really basic that folks can see themselves making at home. And it's also something that they can use all of these different kinds of peppers interchangeably. So you're getting a lot out of this one sign. And then here's another example of purple sprouting broccoli. That's another thing where when it comes on strong, and you suddenly have hundreds of bunches you need to sell. We found that likening it to asparagus really helped our customers understand that product better and why to be excited about it. Comes out around the same time in the spring. You cook it in the same way. It's a tall, tender stalk. You can kind of just roast it or saute it whole and eat it as a finger food. And so that was a really great way for us to meet people where they were and get them to understand a new item better. And then here's just an example of like a very quick, not super thought out sign that helped us move a massive amount of peas that we needed to move that day. So sale, plump pea perfection, $8 a pound, 2 for 15, 3 for 20. That's it. All the information you need is right there. People want plump peas. They definitely do. Ours are plump. They're good. They're perfect. So it's just kind of like a silly thing. It's not the most pretty sign in the world. It's a little dirty even, and yet it works. And this time of year, we recently had to till a house in so that we could plant our tomatoes. And so we had this big sale on baby bok choy. And I just wrote one sign that just said, it's ramen season, bok choy, 2 for 7, and put that on sale. So many people stopped because it's cold outside and they're like, oh, I want to be cozy at home and eating ramen. So you sell a craving, sell a concept. Don't just sell the bok choy. All right, so let's move on to sales and pricing. Again, there's going to be a full presentation on this, so I'm just going to touch very briefly on these topics, but mainly you want to keep your prices as high as you can so that you can offer discounts to the community that needs it the most, and not have that affect your bottom line. So really know your worth and match your market pricing. You don't need to be super below or higher than what the going rate is at your market. If there is a day that you're coming to market and you just have to sell a full pallet of tomatoes or some huge quantity, you're probably going to want to drop your tomato price a little bit lower than other folks, so that you can make sure to sell that perishable product. But other than that, I would keep those individual pricing high and then offer deals for quantity. So that might be a 2-for deal, or 3 bunches for $10 deal or something like that. Or it could be like these tomatoes where you get 3 pounds in a quart box, and the per pound rate is still the higher rate, and then we offer a deal for those boxes, which helps us because then every transaction is 3 pounds of tomatoes walking away instead of one. And it also saves us time at the register that we're not having to weigh out as many individual orders when it's already pre-boxed. Another important note here is listen and lean into your niche. So if there are specific crops or items that people come to you and only you for, so for us, it's some of our specialty peppers, it's our okra, it's our sun gold cherry tomatoes. Those are things that I really never need to drop the price on because I know that people are coming to us for our quality on it, and they're willing to pay more for our product there. Whereas, something like a head of lettuce or an onion, like ours isn't really better than anybody else's. They're all kind of the same lettuce and onions, to be honest. So I'm not going to be as competitive with the pricing there. I'm probably just going to want to match the market rate and offer some deals if I have a lot to move. And then, like I said, you want to offer discounts where it counts. When folks come up and they're paying with SNAP or they're paying with Double Up Food Bucks, that's the place where you want to be able to give a discount and make someone feel cared for. We're all in this work to be able to feed people. And if you are taking care to know your worth and keep your prices up, you can absolutely afford to give those discounts where it counts. And I think that that's all makes a big difference for that customer, and it makes a big difference for us behind the register as well. All right, so the customer experience, we're moving right on through. This is really just this concept that this is more than a transaction. The farmer's market is a different kind of space. And whether you are just, making sure to memorize your regulars' names, you're checking in with them, truly asking how they are, and of course, reading the room. Not everyone wants to have a whole interaction. But sharing photos on your phone of pictures from the farm or a quick little story about something, those are all things that help someone walk away with a laugh or a smile or a story or a new piece of information that they didn't know before. And those are all things that they didn't have to pay for. Um, and then the other piece of it is to really just what I call steal the Michael Pollan trick, is to understand that your customers are not experts on vegetables. Quite the majority of them are not. A lot of people did not grow up eating the majority of the local food that we have available. And so I think just realizing that we don't want to create a bougie, unwelcoming market space where everybody already knows, exactly what celeriac is and how to cook with it. We want to really do what Michael Pollan does, and you start out as the novice and you become the expert with your reader or with your customer. So in the example of that celeriac, what that looks like is, someone comes up, "What's that?" And you're going to say, you know, are you gonna say like, "Oh, that's celeriac, like, it's, delicious specialty root, you should totally try it." That's kind of a way of coming at it of like, you're not really offering that much education. They're obviously not familiar with the thing, and you don't want them to feel bad for not being familiar with it. And so instead, you can say, if you're seeing that someone does not know what that is, you say, "Oh, yeah, I didn't know what that was until a couple of years ago. It's such a weird looking vegetable. Once I figured out how to like cut through the gnarls and just like cut those little roots off on the bottom, you just dice it up with potatoes and it adds so much flavor. It's so good. You should definitely try it sometime." So you're like offering that piece of education and meeting them where they're at, not making them feel bad for not knowing what that item was. And then you're also not pressuring them to purchase it right then. You're really making it clear that I'm offering this education to you out of the goodness of my heart. And that doesn't mean that you need to buy it here today. What I know as a shiesty salesman is me doing that means they're more likely to buy it. So do with that what you will, but I think that's just a little bit of human psychology that helps us out on the sales end. All right, another big point. Again, if y'all know me, y'all know I love to sample vegetables. This was something that we did at Gathering Together Farm every single week, and it made a huge difference. Really low barrier setup here, knife cutting board, toothpicks to sample with, a little hand wash station. And then you don't even need to bring a portable stove. You can get a lot of stuff together raw, just a quick salad with some like salt, oil, and vinegar, and that's it. And in fact, the simpler that you make your recipe, the more accessible it is. People are like, wow, she really only had oil and salt and pepper and a bowl to do this. Like, I can do that. I'll get these vegetables that are right here, like, and I'll make that at home today. So it's really accessible for people. It really creates a lively attraction. If you do choose to cook, it like brings wonderful cooking smells into the market and brings people to your booth. And it really just offers an experience over a product. And down here, we were sampling watermelon, all of our different red, yellow, and orange watermelon. We got our hands on this watermelon hat, and people just went crazy for it. It's like the silliest little thing. But you pay one employee 2 hours to sample watermelon, and you cut into maybe 4 watermelons, and we sold 1,000 pounds that day. That's a lot. That's a lot of money for a very little investment, and it made a really fun experience for kids and everybody to kind of choose what's your favorite flavor of watermelon. And in general, you can kind of just sample whatever, you know, you feel like sampling, and whatever needs help selling out that day. And then making that connection with people so that they really get to know you beyond the market space is really important. People really want to get to know you, whether that's sharing moments from the field or moments in the packing shed that people don't normally get to see. Um, that's a really helpful way to get people involved and just feeling like they're a bigger part of your farm. Signage at market is also a big piece of that. This photo in the middle here is one of our big signboards that we have on display every week. And when we have a table that sells out, we tend to keep that table up and put up information instead. So again, that's a space where people can come for education. They can see very clearly who is the identity of the people at this farm, what did they grow, and I can pause and read a little bit more about them. Likewise, on the right, we have these farm story cards. And those are really a great opportunity at the transaction for us to be like, oh, do you know our farm story? Have you gotten one of our farm story cards before? Um, and then they say, oh, no, I haven't. And I'll just be like, oh, well, it's a really unique story. And I'll just send one home with you. And thanks so much for stopping by today. It's not a big ask. You're just giving somebody a little piece of paper. And every single person has their own unique history and reasoning behind their farm, why they named it the way they did, why you got into farming, what it means for you and your family. I highly recommend doing something like this and printing out some little farm stories like that. It really has made a big difference for us, and is again pretty low investment financially. And then the last thing I want to say on that is don't just share the happy moments. Folks really crave an authentic presence on social media, especially. And I don't know whether it's our human desire for like drama and gossip, but like we want to hear about the bad stuff. People really do. Like if your farm was flooded, they want to see it. If you had like a big crop failure, they want to see it. You might be embarrassed that this happened to you, but people want to understand you better and they want to see your humanity. They want to see how hard it is to bring this food from farm to table. And even if it's as silly as just like you spilt your coffee in the truck one morning and you just wanted to like never farm ever again, take a picture of your spilt coffee and share it on your Instagram story. Those are the real moments, and people really want to connect with you. And when they feel like they understand that hard work and those hard moments, they are not going to complain about your prices nearly as much. And they're really also going to just genuinely want to support you more. So that's it. We just went over a lot. Here are just a couple of resources. This list was longer, and I just wanted to narrow it down. The number one resource that we have is each other. All of us are figuring this out, and we all have different solutions on how we do this. Developing relationships with your fellow vendors and your farmer friends to be able to share honest information about, where did you get this equipment? Did you get a deal on this? Where are you ordering your pint boxes from? What pricing are you doing on your tomatoes today? There are always going to be some people that are more interested in having those honest conversations with you than others, but I would say doing the work of starting those relationships, finding those people who are um, who are aligned with your values and are open to supporting everyone and their success in that market space, is really a valuable thing. So lean on your fellow vendors, lean on your fellow farmers. And then also trust yourself and your own intuition. I have largely been making things up and gleaning from other farmers and other people that I work with, even new folks that I hire onto the booth. I share, a wealth of experience, and everyone has new ideas, even the person that starts on day one. What if we did it like this? Every single person has new ideas to give to this situation. So trust your intuition and just experiment with things and adjust as you go. That's what we're all doing. Um, and I hope that y'all were able to learn some information just from my own experimenting and adjusting over the last decade. Um, and then lastly, your market staff also has a wealth of knowledge. They have been with a lot of vendors going through the same situations that you're about to go through. And they are there to help every step of the way. So with that, thank you so much. This was longer than I intended, but I hope y'all got something out of it, and definitely take a look at that sales presentation that we're going to put up after this one. So thank you and best of luck at your market.